Tom, good morning.
Hey, good morning, guys. Yeah, that's a very optimistic view that guy had because there's no telling what course each of these team seasons will take by then. And he also predicted the wins over both A&M and Missouri, which, they've struggled in both of those series. So if they're able to do that, it's, a little bit of a marker that the two additions to the league from 2012 that have kind of ruled the series that Arkansas gets back on. But we'll see.
Tom, we got a chance to listen to Marcus Woodson yesterday, passing game coordinator, also Larry Worth, Mitchell, and some other guys this week. Passing defense was not great last year. Stats-wise, you were one of the worst, if not the worst, in the Southeastern Conference. What is your confidence level with these veteran pieces that haven't necessarily played a lot of snaps here at Arkansas, but have played a lot of college football heading into this fall?
Well, that is a great question because I think the combination of whether or not they get any kind of pass rush with 4 or possibly 5 guys combined with what the coverage is going to look like on the back end might be the biggest question. And I wrote about a week ago that wide receiver was the biggest question, but I really now think it's the combo pass rush coverage, and because there's so many new guys at cornerback, and will Selman Bridges have a better second year here? Will Julian Neal and some of these new cornerbacks, Keyshawn Davila and Kanai Walker, be able to really contribute? So, I think I think they're feeling better about the safeties than maybe what it looked like in summer. But again, that remains to be seen. Miguel Mitchell's very fast, Larry Worth very versatile, but they are going to need to do some coverage, and they really struggled with coverage at corner and safety, in my opinion, last year. So what I do like about Marcus Woodson, he's a fantastic communicator. I mean, he talks like a guy who will someday be a head coach. And I actually asked him about the fact that Sam Pittman and Kyle Parkinson, rotate through every assistant coach during both spring and camp. And I think it's a great way for those coaches to not only talk about their units and what have you, but have to think on their feet and speak publicly. And Marcus Woodson called it a great professional development opportunity for those coaches. I'm not sure how many coaches across the league do it, but I don't think very many. And I don't know. I like to hear from every assistant coach in camp, and it's a neat deal.
Yeah. It also makes them understand what the head coach has to go through every Monday and then following every game a few times a week, the SEC calls. So I think it's also important that the staff understands that's not been in that spot like Bobby Petrino has. The rest of a lot of these guys haven't. Hey, this is if we don't do our job and our team doesn't play well, it can get pretty tough on the boss come Monday following a game.
That's absolutely true. And, of course, here in camp, things are positive, the depth's in good shape and all that kind of stuff. They're not facing – I mean, Marcus Woodson was asked about the pass defense having a backslide last year. So that's a relatively tough question, but it's a very logical question. And it's not like, when you lose a game against Liberty at home or something like that where the questions are obviously tougher because you were supposed to win that game. So, but I just think it's great training for these coaches to understand, what the head coach is going through and what it's like.
Yeah, not a lot of staff overhaul this year. Staff's been pretty stable. All the coordinators back, as we've talked about ad nauseum. But what have you seen when in the periods we've been able to watch, and you've been there for every one of them, what are you seeing? Is there anything different this year with the way the staff's interacting with the players, the way the staff interacts with each other? Any noticeable differences this year in how the team is being coached?
Tommy, I wouldn't say nothing really just jumps out. I mean, some of the coaches coach harder, and that's typically, you'll hear from Mateos and Deke Adams, who we do talk to today, that get on to their kids. And there was a day recently where Marcus Woodson got on to Travis Williams got on to the transfer linebacker Andrew Harris. And he was asked about that. And it's like, hey, he wasn't here. We think he's going to help us. So you have to coach him harder. Like prepare them for, if you're going to play, you got to be this and read this and get there. And so Andrew Harris is going to be a real nice kind of question mark player for this team. Like, is he the fourth linebacker behind the three that we know, Sorey, Dix, and Bradley Shaw? He could be that fourth. He's certainly a popper, but he doesn't have a whole lot of stats from his time at Central Florida. So we'll see that. But, no, I mean, honestly, the minimal amount of periods we get, I think it's when the heat of, the practice is getting longer, guys are getting tireder, and what the coaches talk about then, that you'd get more insight into that.
Tom Murphy with us here on the Lewis Automotive Group hotline. A scrimmage this Saturday, I would assume another one on the 23rd. How far does this Saturday's scrimmage go in forming the depth chart, at least for game one? I presume we're not going to see one till game one. That's kind of standard operating procedure, but I would think behind the scenes, what happens this Saturday, what's put on tape, will probably start forming who the ones really are and who the twos really are.
That is the absolute truth, because we know that both Taylor Green and KJ Jackson had really good passing days. And so were you not generating enough pass rush? Did you not use enough blitz packages to get a better picture? Because Travis Williams said they wanted the players to not have to think a lot for that scrimmage. So I think it's going to go a long way in determining depth. And, yeah, it's probably going to be the week of the opener that we'll see the depth chart for the first time. But I think the Saturday before the opener, though, it's usually the mock game where it's not quite as physical. So this next scrimmage, I think, is going to be the next, is going to be the longest game-like live tackling situation they'll have between now and Alabama A&M.
Petrino used to love to have like those. I mean, they were literally like 200-play scrimmages. And I don't know if it go that long, but, man, he'd have some doozies, wouldn't he, back in the day?
He had some marathon ones. I know I went to a wedding one time in North Carolina, and so Bob handled a spring scrimmage. And when I got back, they were all talking about it was 180 plays plus. Dudes were getting tired. The reporters were getting tired. It was a hot day. And, yeah, he had some marathon scrimmages that really test the players, like focus, ability, stamina, all that kind of stuff. It's always a test, right? And so I'm not sure if they go 180 on this one, but if last week's was 140-ish, I wouldn't be surprised if they do it that long, or maybe 150.
Tom, good stuff as always, man. We'll do it next week, and maybe we'll have some more thoughts after this scrimmage this weekend.
Oh, we will. Y'all have a good weekend.